So, guys, we don't have Shaugger today, so we're better looking as a group, but not as organized. So, just hang on, hold on with both hands today. I'll try to get it right. So, Zuby, you'll kind of just play the intro, then I'll try to do it like Shaugger does as
Yeah,
we go
you
through it.
just you whenever you're ready, you just start, and then because I'll music and everything, I'm obviously adding after the fact.
Oh, you added after the fact.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good. Okay. Welcome into Got Your Back, brought to you by Mr. Dirk. How's everybody feeling tomorrow? This morning. As we wake up today, we found the Oilers in the first wild card position, competing with the Wild, ironically, a team they've played with a lot for that to stay in that first wild card position, but a pretty good spot considering all their injuries they've had. Of course, Got Your Back, brought to you by Mr. Dirk, located just off White Avenue on 102nd Street. Mr. Dirk is your one-stop shop for all your clothing needs, all of them. If you're a businessman, need to look sharp at your next meeting, or if you want to sharpen your look around the office, they've got a wide selection of amazing suits, shirts, ties, shoes, help you make that statement that you're on top of your game. If it's casual is what you're looking for, plenty of that as well. Jeans, pants, shirts, sweaters, belts, shoes. Mr. Dirk's a great place for quality clothing for all types. Trust me, I've got there and I'm looking good right now. Let's welcome in our participants today. Obviously got Zuby at headquarters in Kelowna, and then TR, parts unknown. Welcome to the show this morning, boys. How are we doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm in St. John's, or I'm in actually Mount Pearl, Newfoundland, Struds, and just finished work on a big movie. It was a lot of work. Looking forward to getting back into the hockey analysis now and picking up where we left off.
Zoobs, we don't have the big guy in the big chair, but honestly, we've done about a minute of this so far, and I think we're actually better without him.
I think we're more efficient. I think it's been a little tighter, and yeah, I don't know. Like you said, we look good and we feel good, and ready to forge ahead here.
More easygoing. I feel more laid back. Don't you, Zoobs?
Yeah. And when the cat's away, the mice will play, and we feel, feel a little looser feel today.
More calm for sure, guys. And I just before we get into the Oilers talk, I watched the Oilers game last night, and then I was flipping through the channels, and I'm like, oh, geez, Chicago and Washington. I turned it on. Old Mr. Ovechkin had 2 goals already. So I'm like, I better keep watching this. And sure enough, that guy scores his 800th NHL goal. I'll be honest, guys. I never thought I would see someone get to 800 goals in the NHL. TR?
No, I honestly didn't. And look, I love Ovechkin. I started, he came into the league. I'm not going to say I didn't like him, or it was always fascinating to watch him play. But it's so long ago. But I remember being down on him about his attitude, and I'm not sure if it was playing. I think maybe in a small way, Sidney Crosby. Sometimes you got some competition, and I think maybe that limelight, that competition, that constant conflict and battle, maybe rubbed him in the right way. It seemed to me that the more he played, the more he became a real good teammate. At first, he was a scorer, but now he goes. We're this far into it. He's still not only scoring, consistently scoring, and not only that, he is one guy that looks happy when he's doing it. People like to score, but he looks of all the sports, and baskets or touchdowns or home runs, whatever you're going to say, he genuinely looks the happiest succeeding to me of any athlete, and I love watching that. And the fact that he's still going says a hell of a lot about his physical makeup and his mental makeup. It must take focus.
It's amazing, Zuby. As a goaltender, I think you'd appreciate, everyone, 800 goals, everyone thinks he's, taking one-timers all over the ice. Last night, those are 3 of the ugliest goals you're going to see. And I would take them, but I'm not wrong. Like, they were ugly goals, but it just shows all 800 don't have to be one-timers. I think good message for kids and quite, even rec league players out there.
Shooting the puck just hard sometimes is enough. Having something on it. And, I'm an Oilers. You guys are journalists. I'm an Oilers fan. I grew up in Edmonton as a kid in the 80s, and I'm an Oilers fan. So records are made to be broken. I don't really want to see the record fall.
Yeah.
And I had to dub him on Twitter the other night "Empty Netchkin" because there had been so many lately. I know Gretzky holds the record there as well, but he had scored like 3 or 4 of his most recent goals in a row. But 3 with a goalie in the net last night, and not the one-timer from his usual spot. So, hey, credit to the guy, man. What consistency in goal scoring over his career. Crazy.
You know what's crazy? I think that for hockey fans and people that grew up watching Wayne Gretzky, this moment when, and I believe Alex will pass Gretzky for the all-time goal leader, it'll be like when Hank Aaron's record was beat or Roger Maris's record was beat. Like those are the type, I think those are records that I think they're held up above all other records. For some reason, home runs and goals stands above other ones. And I think, TR, that that's like, this will be a big moment in these people that watch these guys like Gretzky, Hank Aaron, or Roger Maris, or Mickey Mantle. Those home run records get broken. I think it'll be the same.
We're nearly 100 goals out, right?
Yeah, just under, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
just under. And he's on this pace. And I always, honestly, I've been asked this question a lot, and I bet against him just because of the law of averages, not only, with the longevity of it. And, sometimes you're going to be up, sometimes you're going to be down. Look at Austin Matthews, and again, he's still scoring, but you go in some slumps, if you want to call Austin Matthews a slump. I mean, you're talking about greatest scores ever. But okay, do that for another 15 years, right? And he's done it. And I find it fascinating, so much so, that record, if there's one record I remember in sports, it's that. Again, we grew up in that era. You guys were in Edmonton, but I was a fan. I watched how could you not like Gretzky and everything that he did? And, the goals, it was like, are you kidding me? And he overcame Gordie Howe, and there was just so much drama to it. And now, honestly, I give Ovechkin the respect. If I'm walking by a TV and he's on, I sit down and watch. This guy deserves the utmost respect. And I know they're different. And look, I was once saying it forever. Well, Gretzky had less games and Gretzky got the most in his season. And look, it's different eras. And it takes an awful lot of goals. It takes an awful lot of pure ability, instinct, talent, all of that to score them. And they don't ask how, do they? They ask how many. And this guy's built. I think if there's one thing that's underrated about Alex Ovechkin, it's how big and strong he is. And he's way bigger and stronger than most of the other people on the list that he's challenging. And I'm including Gordie Howe. Gordie Howe's a different kind of a presence, but Alex Ovechkin is a new kind of, if you want to call him that. He's nearly 40 years old, but it's like it's the athlete into 2020s, and he's built himself there. I'm sure he came into the league wanting to do this, but he's done it. And the other thing, guys, I know I'm going on and on, but to point out the fact that this guy went all that time without any major injuries,
crazy,
that would have kept him out of doing this. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I think it's to be, you tip your hat for not only the goals, but how he gets them, how he keeps himself in shape, how he focuses, and, the fact that he's done all this, playing so hard and not getting injured. I can see a lot of games in a row, a career that goes on if you're not really a physical player, but he's still out there initiating hits, and it's to be commended.
Yeah, it'd be pretty crazy. I think it won't be this year, and I don't think it'll be next year. But I think the year after that, maybe halfway through the year or the end of the last third of the season, we're all going to be sitting around. We're going to be talking about this. And it is, like, I think passing Gordie Howe is a huge moment. I think anything you touch that passes Gordie Howe is an incredible accomplishment, because I think, in my opinion, is one that, that's one true superstar, I think, that we can all relate to. But when he passes Gordie, then I can't wrap my head around it. It'd be like I thought that one and the 92 goals in one season would be untouchable.
Yeah, it still seems like 92 is untouchable. Brett Hull got close one year, I think, and obviously Solani had that 76 in his rookie year, which isn't really close, but it's in the same stratosphere. And it'll be cool. I hope to get to see it. I remember, to see it live is one of those things. Mm-hmm. I saw, one of the, I think Barry Bonds home run surpassing whoever it was. Is it Hank Aaron for total home runs? And we went into a pub, sat down, Barry Bonds is up, boom, literally that's, and those moments I find like the same way you turned it on to see 800 last night. I hope I get to see it in some sort of live setting like that.
Zoobs, one thing I think I need to point out, now this is in my mental Rolodex, but I think Mario Lemieux had 89. Am I wrong? We got to toss that out there. And I think he missed 2 or 3 games that season. Okay. Yes, he did. Check it out.
Yeah, I'm sure he had a high one.
Conversation because he's so graceful and finesse, and you think of Lemieux as this. I think of him as an offensive superstar, but goals aren't always emphasized. But he did have 89.
I'm sure you're right.
Amazing player. Amazing player. All right. We talked about the grade eight. Let's talk about the Edmonton Oilers after a back-to-back performance. One win, one loss, or I guess in order, one loss, one win, and now a complete day off for the group. Zuby, we'll catch up with you in a few minutes, but that means it's time for the breakdown brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. DLR Vinyl Products, some of the nicest maintenance-free fencing and decking products out there. If you've always had a wood fence in your backyard and it's getting pretty dicey, time for a change. Really give some thought to going maintenance-free. It's a way to go. No more sanding, staining, no worrying about upkeep. It looks amazing the day it goes in and stays that way for decades. It's better product. It's much more simple to use. DLL Vinyl locations in Calgary and Edmonton. And then Shaugger wanted me to tell you that he would actually come in and help you install it. That's how much he believes in it, and he's such a handy guy. The Oilers win last night. In Nashville, a team that they've kind of had their way with. There's many different storylines that pick up, but I think we have to talk about Leon Draisaitl and his complete dominance of this team. That is now 2 games this year. He's had 5 points, TR, against the same team. I mean, and it just goes on historically. His numbers against that Nashville team. How do you, as an offensive player, arrive at and understand that, like, I love this team. I love playing against this team because they've got good D-men, they've got good goalies, and they've got good players. It's not like he's beating up on an AHL team here.
I know. I find it fascinating. It's that, you can't always measure the mental part of the game. Clearly something's there. And not only on Nashville's side being intimidated, I'm saying in his head. We've all been there as athletes, some of us longer than others, but when you're in the zone,
yeah,
you can often be in the zone against a team over the course of months or even years. It doesn't just mean you're in the zone for this one little period of time that's linear. And some players, you look at the stats. I mean, there's everybody's plays better if you look at stats against certain teams, but this is on another level. It's in another stratosphere. And when you see him with the puck, it's almost like you can see his confidence. At this point, he's expecting, and we're expecting him to score. And some of the moves, some of the plays are otherworldly, would be too much. But, I expect a lot from Draisaitl, but when he plays Nashville, he almost outdoes himself every time. So it's part of the mindset, I suppose. And if I'm Draisaitl, I'm pretty pumped. But if I'm Nashville, I'm scratching my head and I'm trying to find an answer because it's starting to get out of hand.
It is completely out of hand. The Oilers win 6-3. I think something that is huge, and we have to acknowledge, is the specialty teams. Last night, the power play goes 2 for 2, and the PK, they're slowly seem to be climbing up the ladder. They're still, I think, in 25th or 26th place, hovering around 71, 72%. But the power play, I think last time I looked, I think it's 31.9. And it's just absolutely ridiculous what this power play is doing. And I really think that it's the way it's clipping right now. We got to give a lot. Obviously, we know what McDavid and Leon are doing, but I'm looking at Nuge. I think Nuge right now made a great pass to Draisaitl. He has so much offensive confidence. And I really think that as a penalty killer, you can sense, at least I knew, when a guy was feeling it. And the problem is, unfortunately for penalty killing teams, the guy that is really feeling it isn't a top guy. Those top guys are always kind of feeling, they're always dangerous. But this is a guy who's struggled a little bit offensively. Power play has always been pretty good, but he is so confident. He just drove that puck wide, snapped an absolute missile through the seam right to Draisaitl and knocks it in. And I mean, this power play with a confident and decisive Nugent Hopkins right now, TR, for me, goes 2 for 2. A huge part of that win last night.
When you're on a power play and it's rolling, we often talk communication. It's one thing to, and I love communication as a player. I'll get into that in a little bit. But it's one thing to be talking and yelling and, hey, I'm here. But as players develop a rapport with each other and they play more and more games and more shifts, and I know we're well into it with Nuge, but still, I find it's almost telepathic. You can where someone's going to go. You're confident. That mix of confidence in yourself and confidence where your teammate is going to go and what they're going to do is dangerous. And Nuge is dialed in. He's dialed in. They all are. And they seem to read off each other better than ever, even though I don't ever remember looking at the Oilers power play and seeing a flaw. But right now, It seems that it's firing on all cylinders. They really read each other well, and sometimes they don't even have to look or think, and that is also dangerous.
Very scary. Jack Campbell gets a start last night. The starts have been few and far between for the big guy. That first shot, I'm like, oh man, it goes off the D man, trickles through his pads. We've seen that one before, but I think we got to give him credit. He kind of bounced back. He had a 906 save percentage last night, not world beating, but definitely a kind of a step in the right direction, moving in the right way. So I actually, when I look at that whole situation with Jack Campbell, I'm not sure if I'm ready to give him the next start Thursday versus St. Louis, but I think I hope at least he hit rock bottom a little while ago, TR, and he's starting to kind of get a little bit of traction. Not a work of art last night, but at least he got the win and he did battle back after that first goal.
We're talking about a guy who was down on himself, and so were a lot of people, and he signed the contract.
Sure.
I mean, some of it, you bring when you sign a huge contract like that, you do bring pressure on yourself, don't you? But we know how he started, and we know some of the things he might have said and the public have said about him and the media. Now, it's one thing to come back after that, and there's a magnifying glass every time. I identify, I know what it's like, and not just in sports, but it's just, sometimes you get in this mental funk and you got to get out of it. And last night, to me, the worst thing could have happened off the bat is that goal go in, because now it's even more magnified. If you thought that it was, now all of a sudden you come in and it's like, oh God, oh no, take him out and leave him in, take him out. And he finishes just fine. He grabbed inside, he dug deep. He looked at, I think his comment after was, there's 9 minutes left. We have to put our heads up and go. He has confidence in his teammates. They didn't let him down. A whole lot of good came out of that. And I tip my hat to Jack Campbell. I thought it was a fantastic job, because after that first goal, I knew it, you knew it, everybody knew it. He had to be mentally strong in order to finish that game decent, let alone get a win, and only let in another 2. So hats off to Jack Campbell.
Yeah, I really think that, and after the game, Hyman was asked about Campbell. And he said, yeah, he'd probably like to have that first one back, but he battled for us and played a good game after. And, you need some positivity to happen, whether you're a goalie, a scorer, a defenseman, whatever. You need to have some positivity in your game. And I really like that he did kind of get down, grind it out. Now, they had lots of offensive support, but, sometimes you need a little help. So I'm really interested in the way that Jay approaches. If you were in charge, would you play Campbell tomorrow on Thursday, or would you go back with Skinner?
What would I do? I think,
keep in mind they have Anaheim Saturday, which Anaheim right now, they're doing such a great job at losing. I'm not sure anyone can compete with that team. I read a stat they have 1 regulation win. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but that is really bad hockey. Congratulations.
Well, that solidifies my decision. I'd put Skinner in and I'd come back with Campbell. And for no reason other than the fact that we've been rolling along here now. Skinner's been doing a great job. Campbell came in, right? I mean, I think I might contradict myself. 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have said this, but I do think the time clearly helped. Rome wasn't built in a day. It's baby steps here, right? So that's a huge step. That's baby steps on the way to a win, which is a huge win. And now I'd come back. Skinner looks great to me, and there's no need to rush anything. The playoffs are a long time away. All you need to do, the goal is to have these guys locked in the playoffs, right? That's the goal. So how do we get there? Well, I think everything that we've done recently concerning Jack Campbell has been a pretty positive move in the right direction. Why screw with that? And I have every bit of confidence in Skinner that he'll, he's been, if nothing, consistent.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think I'm going Skinner, then I'm going to go Campbell. There are 2 games. They're winning 2 guys that are below you in the standings, and especially St. Louis, you want to keep pushing them down as they're right now competing with the Oilers for a wild card spot. All right, that was the breakdown. Now let's move into the Weiss Johnson Soundbox. Great time to literally look into a furnace for the garage, and they've got a great deal going. Shaugger put one in his, and he just loves it. Until the end of January, no GST on all garage heater installations. Also, if you're a business owner, remember Weiss Johnson provides a range of services, commercial rooftop unit replacements and servicing, as well as plumbing and HVAC tenant improvements. If you want to set up a regular service and maintenance contract, give them a shout. They'll come and give you a quote. They're at 5803 Roper Road, 780-463-3096. The top line has been unreal. And last night, that top line, I believe they combined for 13 points, which is unbelievable when you consider, they were playing against some pretty good players. in Yossi and then some of the other top forwards. Let's hear Jay Woodcroft, head coach of the Oilers, on his thoughts of the top line post game.
Well, I mean, they paced us tonight. Offensively, they were feeling it. We were able to not overtax them either, and it was a tight game. I mean, their team pushed in the second period, they pushed in the third period, but we were able to get good contribution from that line.
There you go. So the top line tonight, to give you a little bit of context, or last night, they played 18 minutes each, just over 18 minutes. And they've been in the 20s, 24s, 25s. We've seen some high minutes, and that allowed to kind of play everyone back to back for both teams. You should consider that. But that line was unstoppable last night. They were absolutely unstoppable. And Jay Woodcroft right now has a magic bullet that, especially against teams like Nashville, they're missing a ton of the regular defensemen. They had no answer. They had no answer for those three guys, whether it was 5-on-5 or specifically power play. And TR, how long do you run with this group? And so how long do you keep these guys together? And B, does it make a big difference that Nuge is playing at the level he is offensively, not just defensively, but offensively, and that gives your second line a little boost? Does that change at all the fact that maybe when they get healthy, you bump Leon and Connor to different lines?
Well, the Oilers have a different makeup. It's the dynamic changes. God, that's a tough question. It's a judgment call, like game to game. It's working. Okay, I watched the game last night with two of my buddies. Okay, one's a Leafs fan, one's a Habs fan. So they were both down on the Oilers. Well, if the Oilers didn't have these guys, and I'm like, well, what are you saying? What? It's like if I said, well, if the Yankees didn't have Judge, well, but they do, right?
Yeah,
well, if Toronto didn't have Kawhi that year, they wouldn't have won it. Okay, but they did. So if these guys stay flying, look, there was some players. I made a note. Shore, Ryan, Holloway, they got hemmed in a few times. Not that they're a line. Yamamoto finished hits. Janmark drew a penalty. Like, these guys weren't great, and a few times they did. They got hemmed into their zone, being the bottom two lines. But Puljujarvi, I know, but they all chipped in. They tried when they could. Puljujarvi, again, he looks like he's going to do something, but he did make a few nice passes, 2 to McDavid. Yamamoto finished 5 or 6 hits. Look, that's it. They're going to score most of the goals. That's your team. Okay, hopefully they don't get injured. But if the guys can go out there, and the guys I mentioned, most of them played on the PK and did pretty well. Sure, I thought looked behind the play at times, but these guys go out on the penalty kill. They did their job. McDavid has a bad shift. He's probably still going to get 3 points. The boys get a bad shift. They might be benched for for half a period. But whatever works, to me, it looks like a team that has a chance to win it. You want to keep that going. As long as you can. And if that takes, it's not always going to be Draisaitl getting 5 points, okay? That would be alarming if that had to happen every game. But they are going to get they're going to do most of the scoring. That's the way it is. So you ride it. You ask me who you play with. I don't know. I think at different times over the last couple of years, both solutions have worked. So I think it's a timing thing. It's a judgment call, and you look at the rest of the lineup, see who's out, see who fits where. And I think it's they're puzzle pieces that are easily placed at this particular time.
Yeah, I'm going to put something forward. I want to get your opinion here. I believe when healthy, you load up the top line when you're playing weaker teams, specifically the second of a back-to-back, because you just overwhelm the other group. They can't keep it. Now, a top team, it might be a little harder to do that, but when you're in a back-to-back or you're playing a weaker team, so let's say the Oilers got instantly healthy. I would load up that top line on Saturday against the Ducks, because they have no answer. They have no answer for that, and you could, in your other lines, can push on those on whoever they're playing against, and you just blow teams out of the water offensively. They can't keep it. When you're playing a good team, I think you have to spread out the love a little bit, kind of get more playoff ready. That is how I would approach it with Jay, and I think also it keeps the lines fresh, TR. So, your thoughts on my plan, but also, does it matter to forwards? Do they think about the fact that, it's exciting, I'm playing with someone different tonight? Like, not every night, but let's say every now and then you just shake up the lines and kind of not shock the system, but just kind of keep everyone on their toes.
Everyone's different. I enjoyed playing all over the place.
Okay.
That's just me. It not only because, I like to play with you, and it might be nice to play with you, and tonight maybe I'll play on the third line and tomorrow the first. I don't mean it from that point of view. I mean it from the point of view that even the best combos, you often get into a funk. It gets stale. So. There's always like you're re-energized, and there's certain players I know that are better at gaining the zone. There's certain players that are better at dumping in. There's certain players when they dump it in, I know exactly where they're going to go. I know where to forecheck, and you've got 12 forwards out there each game if you're talking forwards here.
Just forwards,
and it can't hurt. I don't think it can hurt if you get as much experience with as many different players as you possibly can. Sometimes the chemistry is obvious. What you were talking about earlier with Nuge, right? Yeah. Clearly, he's developed an unreal rapport with some players that are probably considered a little better offensively than he is, and he elevates to their level rather than them coming down to another level. And I think the more you do that, the more that's possible.
I love it. No, I think that's how I'd approach it. Be interesting. They're not healthy, and definitely with Kane out, it makes a difference. All right, let's take a quick pause here. When we come back, we'll get into takeaways and a very specific play we've seen and been debated. It's been argued, but it's something that needs to be sorted out. Back checking and D-men communications. More to come after the break.
Joined now by Sterling Dirk, right inside the beautiful store over at Mr. Dirk. Sterling, time for a little rapid fire. You up for it?
I'm ready. Here we go.
All right, true or false? You took on title sponsorship of this podcast for the sole purpose of fixing Jason Strudwick's mess.
True. His wife came begging for help.
It's going to be a long, beautiful relationship. It's going to take us a while, pal. All right, true or false? If someone's frustrated looking at their wardrobe, doesn't like their options, it's immediately $1,500 to make any change.
False. You start with one item, you build it up. It's like anything in life. You just need to kind of start placing those pieces and then adding more and more, but it doesn't need to happen all at once.
True or false? Suits are the main thing that Mr. Dirk offers.
False. Actually, we carry a wide array of product from jeans, shoes, socks, underwear, t-shirts, casual wear. I mean, we specialize in tailoring, but we are head to toe for all of our clients from weekend to regular everyday office.
Great stuff. Check out the shop just off White Avenue at 102nd Street. And for all their stock, visit them online, mrdirk.com. Thanks, Sterling. I'll see you soon, buddy. I'm due.
We'll see you soon.
Hey, Struddy, question for you. Have you ever tried putting in your own fence?
I sure have. Between digging the posts, mixing up cement and digging the holes, it's absolute killer.
It's brutal on the back. Well, listen, what if I told you you could put in a fence without having to dig a hole or mix any concrete?
I'd be much more likely to come over and help you out.
Yeah, well, you're not the first guy I would call, but thank you for that. Listen, my brother's company, DLR Vinyl Products, they've come up with a system where you can actually put high-quality vinyl fence in the ground without having to dig a hole, without having to mix any concrete. They can teach do-it-yourselfers how to do it, and they can also work with contractors who might be looking to start installing vinyl. It's super high-quality product. The great thing about it is that it has fantastic longevity. You put it in, you don't have to worry about staining or sanding or anything like that. I've been lucky enough, Struddy. They've put in multiple fences in my different yards and they've built me 3 decks. I have totally abused the fact that my family is in the fencing and decking business, but it's great product. Give Rob a call in Calgary or Rick a call here in Edmonton. This is a company my dad started. It's a family business. I'm super proud of it. That's DLR Vinyl Products in Edmonton and Calgary.
Welcome back to Got Your Back today without Ryan Shaugger. And I tell you what, Shaugger, his ice time is going to be greatly reduced when he comes back into the show. We're killing it today, Zuby, TR, and myself, Jason Strudwick. Let's get now into the takeaways. Time now for the takeaways, brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC. Just off Baseline Road into Sherwood Park, the #1 GMC dealership in all of Canada for 5 years running. Have you seen the all-new redesigned Sierra 1500? Wide variety of trims available. The Denali Ultimate is regarded as the most advanced and luxurious in its class. Sherwood Buick GMC has inventory. A lot of the places are struggling with that right now. They can get their hands on vehicles quickly for you. They also have a ton of great used vehicles for you as well. One of the biggest inventories in the city. Visit Sherwood Park or SherwoodBuickGMC.com. Again, SherwoodBuickGMC.com. I always got to get the park in there. Can't help it. All right, Tia, we're back at him. I want to break down a play that we saw in the first of the doubleheader versus Minnesota. It ended up being the game-winning goal. It was essentially a 2-on-2. Bouchard, McDavid back checking against Goujo and, of course, Matt Boldy, who I absolutely love as a player. So if you didn't see the play, for those listening, there's a pinch at the blue line by Broberg. Smartly, McDavid does what he needs to do. He's a high guy. He comes back, supports, fills in behind his guy. The puck does get out, and now all of a sudden it's a 2-on-2. Goujo is beside McDavid's beside his guy, Goujo. Bouchard is now taking kind of a 1-on-1, but there's a back checker, so it's a 2-on-2. And so basically what happens is Bouchard plays it really softly, backs off. McDavid is unsure what to do. Next thing you know, both Bouchard and McDavid are in no man's land. Boldy makes a great pass to a backdoor Goujo to a one-timer. This can't happen. This was a misplayed choice by the players, and it results in the game-winning goal. I feel this, Tiar, and we'll get you right away here. The D-man has to communicate. In this case, Bouchard, he needs to point and direct traffic to 97, say, or whoever the forward is. Take this guy. I have him. You take this guy. Forwards want to know. I truly believe forwards want to be directed in this case. This is their natural comfort level. They're coming back. They're back checking, trying to figure out who's is who. And every time I did that, I would calm down the forward and be like, TR, take that guy. And he would just swing over and take it. And now he'd know who he has, and I know who I'd have. And what would have happened in this play, Bouchard would have pointed to McDavid to stay with Goujo, and Bouchard, instead of sagging off like he did, he would have got up, come across, and squeezed Boldy out, and both Boldy wouldn't have had time to make a play like he did, and then Goujo wouldn't have had the backdoor tap in. As a forward, when you're coming back in this situation, whether it's an on-man rush and you're getting back hard on the back check, did you find it was helpful? Is it important for the D-man to direct traffic like Bouchard did not do in this specific play Monday night?
Okay, this is great. Extremely, and I've go out if I have hockey schools or whatever, I try to reiterate this to the kids, how important communication is. And I often, I'm going to give the devil his due. I often talk about Michel Therrien, and we had our feuds, but
Yeah.
I remember him. There were things I learned from him, and I remember, I had him for 2 full years in the minors, and I had successful stats. I just didn't really always get along with him. But I remember him saying that. I remember him saying, some of these guys, Stefan Robida didn't know much English at all, and
Yeah.
he grew into it to learn it after a while. But, I played with Stefan his first year out of junior. We had Miloslav Gurin was my roommate, but he was Czech. It was tough for a lot of us to communicate. We had a lot of different languages going on. And I know there's always different languages on a team, but I mean people that only spoke a specific language. And I remember Therrien going, think of communication like a wrist shot that you got to work on. Like it really can make you a lot better of a player. And it's obvious, and everybody can do it, but not everybody does. And two guys I'll point out, man, I guess from Edmonton, both of them, that I remember, Zenith Komarniski and Sheldon Surrey.
Mm-hmm.
And Sheldon was almost relentless. It was almost annoying, but always had his mouth going. And we'd often get in the room, and sometimes it would be an argument, but we'd always land somewhere. We'd have gained something. We'd have learned something about each other. And as the year went on, if you're talking specific plays, I'd much rather be directed, especially from a defenseman when we're back checking. As I'm sure Sheldon ended up being a great scorer. I'm sure he needed some communication on the power play sometimes. He needed to work on that part. But when we were coming back, I'd way rather a defenseman kind of control the traffic, not always like tell me what to do, but yell out what they're doing. And then, of course, okay, it's a 2-on-2. You got him. Obviously, I get, it doesn't always have to be, hey, get the hell in position. But there's got to be some communication or else all is lost. And, if you're back checking with the best player in the world and you miss your target and the puck goes in, something was amiss. And if you look at that play, there's not much communication.
Zero communication. And you can tell that Connor, he get, at times people have been critical or criticized Connor and saying, well, he doesn't come back hard enough or whatever. He did come back. He was right in the fight, but without, clear direction. Both of them end up just in the middle in no man's land. And it's incredible. I credit Boldy because he actually creates space there and he gets a little bit of space away. And then the two guys are in the middle, but that isn't, to me, not unforgivable, but it's a goal that can be prevented. Right. And those are moments like, again, Bouchard, growing on the fly, learning how to compete. But you have to take charge. It doesn't matter if that's Connor McDavid, Wayne Gretzky, or the Lord God himself. All three of those people, you have to tell them. And I honestly think that Bouchard looked up, saw who it was, and I think he deferred. I think he deferred to Connor. And then Connor's like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do here either. I guess, Connor can maybe turn around and play it like a 2-on-2, but that's not his job. His job is to take instruction from the D-men. So another opportunity to learn for Bouchard. And listen, it's mid-season, but I think that was a winnable game on Monday. They didn't deserve to win it, but they could have won it. So another learnable moment for Bouchard. And, unfortunately, when you have a young defenseman here, TR, you're going to take your lumps. And I think we're seeing them with these types of choices.
And I think that's something, when I look at Bouchard play, sometimes it's, what's the word? It's confidence, but it is communication. It's mental communication. It's he's like the mistake. Like, okay, last night he made, was it him that made the slap pass to Hyman on his first goal?
Yes.
He'll make some great plays.
Unreal.
And you're like, unreal. But
Unreal.
then the plays he gets burned on are peewee plays, right? Like that play. Imagine if I told me and you got a 2-on-2 and it's against Evan Bouchard, one of the best defensemen in the world, and Connor McDavid, and we score. Yeah. So something was amiss. I love Boldy too, but you should never come out of that with a goal. And it's usually some kind of, the Oilers, like I said early in the year, getting burnt on that defenseman too close to the change, and they right off the bat, someone, and I think they got burned on 2 goals. Like, it's things like that. That again, if I'm a fan or I'm on the team, this doesn't really bother me because it's easily worked on. That shouldn't happen. And by the time you get to the playoffs, hopefully all your ducks are in a row. But when I see Bouchard, I see shades of Stefan Robida. I do. Yeah. And by that, I mean Stefan Robida ended up being a great defenseman. But he was, I'm not saying because he was French, although that's a similarity, but I'm just mean there's a slight language thing. But it was just something to do with, he wasn't confident speaking in the room or on the ice, and he grew into that. And I'm only using it's a right-handed shot defenseman that I played with, but there's all kinds of guys that come and go. And I think when I look at Bouchard, he's often unsure of himself, and that comes with communication. It's like he's on the precipice of greatness, but the mistakes he makes, like I said, are peewee plays.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And listen, I did not have the offensive skill. That pass you talked about last night was unbelievable. And he makes those plays look easy. I could not do any of those things, but I could definitely tell a forward where to go on the back check, right? And so it's not skill. That is not what I'm talking about. Is not a skill. It's a learned habit that you have to do, and that's Dave Manson. That's Dave Manson's job. He's got to figure that out with Bouchard. But it'll come. It'll come, and you hope in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. This is just natural, and you're directing traffic. As man, it is so comforting for a forward. I've seen it in their faces when I'm like, "Hey, take this guy." It's so calming. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll do. I know who my job is now, what I have to do. And then now I have to do my job. And it's easier for me because I'm not focused on 2 guys. I know that I'm down to a 1-on-1. And I mean, no disrespect to Matt Boldy. I really like him as a player, but it's a lot different than Connor McDavid come down on you. So you can handle him on a 1-on-1. The other guy, Goudreau, a hard worker, but I mean, Connor can stop him. So learning lesson for Bouchard, but we'll see those also with Holloway. We've seen him. We'll see him with McLeod. Even Skinner, we'll see some of those moments with some puck handling decision. TR, any final thoughts here as we drift into the end of the show without Shaugger here on this post-game show of two back-to-backs by the Oilers?
Shaugger, who's Shaugger? Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
Yes,
Ryan
right.
Shaugger. Yeah, well, who needs a middleman? What did I take? Look, it's obvious and I've talked about it before because I absolutely love the way he plays. He's one of my favorites, but the Zach Hyman effect. Look, I mean, he missed those games. We talked about it. They look down. I'm not saying it's just Zach Hyman, but he goes out there. He's the player on the team that he's got a lot of skill, and he brings 3rd, 4th line energy every night. The battles, every time he's successful, it's like out skating Yossi or winning a battle in front of the net against somebody that you wouldn't think that, some big, strong D. But last night, twice he burned Yossi. I saw, and that's just effort. And I love the way this guy plays. I can't say enough about it. I think it's addictive. His effort, his skill is underrated because he works so hard. And not only was it nice to see him get a hat trick because he's in my pool, but I I think everybody feeds off it. There, Yamamoto, I'll say. If you want one player, I don't know. When he's playing and Hyman's in the lineup, again, I don't think he had any points, but he just looked to me in. He looked zoned in. He finished some hits. And I think and of course, why wouldn't it be? Hyman came into this situation this year. Obviously, the first two guys you're going to talk about are going to be Draisaitl and McDavid every time. But the team he came from before, he was in a similar situation, and he often stirred the drink. Go back to Zach Hyman when he was 15 years old. Do your homework, and he was always that guy. He always worked hard, and it's addictive. And the teams that he plays on, when he's in the zone, when he just shows up with his lunch pail like he does, they seem to be more successful. And last night was another magnified version of that.
100%. Zuby, that's it for today. I know, listen, we can replace Shaugger. That's obvious after this podcast, but we don't want to. Any final thoughts from you?
No, I certainly appreciated that when I popped back in because I thought we were going to bury Shaugger some more, and then TR took the high road and went straight hockey with that answer, and so I appreciate that. I do think we buried him enough. We know he's like the Zach Hyman of this group,
he
right?
is.
So Shaggy's the one the straw that stirs the drink here. So I won't bury him anymore. It was a fun to do a show with just the three of us, and he'll be back soon enough, and we'll be back to making fun of people's fashion choices.
Exactly. Well, thanks, boys. And Shaugger will be back here as we get towards another podcast towards the end of the week. Oilers take on St. Louis on Thursday. The Oilers are in the first spot of wild card right now. Thanks to all of our sponsors, including Mr. Dirk, of course, DLR Vinyl Products, Weiss Johnson, and of course, our good friends at Sherwood Buick GMC. Guys, thanks for this today. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back later this week, and we'll check up with you later. Enjoy the next game against the Blues.